Okay, hi again. My name is Marit. I'm doing NVivo training and support for Alfasoft since 2018. And today I want to present you the new AI features in NVivo 15. And the slogan for this new version is "Your research team just grew by one." And in this presentation, we will hopefully learn what this means. Just to give you a little overview of what you can expect from this session today, I will start with a little introduction about NVivo and how you can use it in your research, because I assume that maybe not everyone knows NVivo. And then I will show you the new AI features that come with NVivo 15. And also, we have a special training offer for autumn 2024. If you have been in the EndNote session, you already heard about it, but I will also remind you about this special offer in the end of the session. So that's our plan for today. Please use the question panel if you have any questions. My colleagues in the background will try to answer as much as they can, but hopefully we will have enough time to also ask some or to answer some of your questions. I want to apologize in advance for my voice. I have a little bit of a cold, so I might take a sip of tea here and there, but yeah, that's that's autumn, I guess. Okay, let's get started. So Lumivero or NVivo comes with a range of different solutions that you can use throughout your entire research process. Obviously, today we want to focus on NVivo, which is, the desktop version of NVivo that you use to analyze and visualize your data. But in the whole process of doing your research, there are a lot of steps, and NVivo and the Lumivero solutions can support you throughout this process. So every research project usually starts with a literature review. We need to find out what studies have already been published about the subject. We need to find our, white spot, basically, where we ask our questions and want to find answers. And we want to also find, the place where we want to position our own study in the whole literature. So for that, we usually do a extensive literature review. We can do this, of course, by using tools like EndNote or also Citavi. Citavi belongs to the same producer as NVivo, and there's a strong integration. So you could even import your Citavi project into NVivo. And if you are new to Citavi, never heard about it, there is actually a presentation on Citavi just after this one. So if you're curious to see what Citavi can do, just stay and you will learn about it. Then in NVivo, of course, we want to manage and organize our data. This is what I will show you a little bit with a sample project today. If you work with media files. So let's say you're doing interviews. At some point, we need to transcribe them. Usually, we cannot just work with the raw audio or video file. Transcribing your data can be very time consuming, but there are, of course, solutions in NVivo on how you can do that. So either you transcribe manually inside of NVivo, so there's no need to actually purchase an additional transcription software. Or if you have the resources, you can also use an add-on module called NVivo Transcription, which will definitely speed up the transcription process because it's an automated transcription tool. If you want to work in a team, there's also solutions for that. There are different ways of how you can collaborate in NVivo, and I will give you a little bit of insight on that as well. And at the end of our research process, we, of course, want to publish our work, be it a thesis, a journal article, a report, and NVivo offers many different ways of how you can export your data, visualizations, Excel files, Word documents, reports, because, of course, the analysis that we do, we want to present at some point. So NVivo is a software for qualitative data analysis, but you can also use it for mixed methods data. So if you have any type of data that you see here, if you have Word documents, PDFs, Excel files, etc., you can all bring it into NVivo and you analyze it. If you, for instance, work with surveys with open-ended questions and you want to analyze those open-ended questions, you can bring them in either as an Excel file or directly from Qualtrics or SurveyMonkey. If you're doing social media analysis or are working with sources from the internet like web pages, there's a nice add-on for Chrome, which is called NCapture, which will help you capture data from the internet that you can then easily bring into NVivo for analysis. And like I said in the beginning, you can also bring in your library or your project directly from Citavi or other reference managers. And the reason why we want to use qualitative data analysis software like NVivo is first of all, because we want to be able to have everything that we need for our project in one place, right? You create an NVivo project and you import all the files that you need, all the relevant sources, all the empirical data, everything is in one place. And like I said, you can also work in a team, so you can share your work. And if you use NVivo, you will get access to a lot of powerful analysis and visualization tools. So you can run different queries, starting from lexical queries like the word cloud and the word tree that you see here. And the further we go in our analysis, the more complex our queries can get. So for instance, you are interested in what different people in your interviews had to say about tourism in their area, and you want to group them by age and see, okay, maybe there are different opinions depending on the age group someone is in. And all of this can be done in NVivo, and that's really powerful. Like I said, there are some add-on modules just to give you some idea of how this looks like. NVivo Transcription is an automated transcription assistant. And basically how it works is you take your audio video file of your interview, you upload it to the NVivo transcription webpage, or you can also first upload your file or import your file into your NVivo project and then send it to NVivo transcription. In NVivo transcription, you just pick the language that your audio file is in. Currently, there are 43 languages that are supported, and then you click transcribe, and usually it's pretty fast. So if you have a 60-minute interview, it should be back in maximum 30 minutes. And I don't think that you could do this if you were doing it manually. There's also an editing tool, so you can add speaker names. You can also listen to the media file while going through the transcript, and then seeing if everything was transcribed correctly, or if not, you can do your edits, change the things that need to be changed, and you can even create something called a dictionary for words that are common in your empiric data, but that the software might catch incorrectly. So yeah, you can basically train the NVivo transcription to transcribe even more precise with the next round of interviews that you use it for. Here's an overview of the languages that are currently supported. So for our audience here, I think it's important to see that Danish, Swedish, Norwegian, etc. is supported. Now, if you want to work in a team, this is of course also possible. Since the last version of NVivo, NVivo 14, we have a new version of the NVivo Collaboration Cloud. So the NVivo Collaboration Cloud is an add-on module that allows you to work together in one project file in real time, even across platforms. So one of you can create a NVivo project, upload it to the cloud, and then share it with their team members, and everyone can work on it at the same time. There are some, rules. The person who uploads the file will be the project owner, who has a little bit more. The project owner basically can do a little bit more than the collaborators. So there's kind of a safety net so that not everyone can suddenly delete things and stuff like that. But other than that, everyone can work simultaneously on the same project file and really share the workload that needs to be covered. the way this would work is, you just need, in addition to your NVivo license, so everyone in your team needs a NVivo license of NVivo 14 or 15, and then you, in addition, get a subscription for NVivo Collaboration Cloud, which is valid for 1 year. You assign the seats to those who should be in your team in the My Lumivero portal that a lot of you might already be familiar with. And then from NVivo, you can create the project, share it, and invite your team members. So far, so good. This is like a little introduction to you, but these are things that you might already have heard, that you're already familiar with. So because they have been there since NVivo 14 and earlier. So let's see what new things are available with NVivo 15. And we might say NVivo just got better. So let's see what the new AI assistant has to offer for us. So maybe you found yourself in one of the two scenarios that you see on the screen. So maybe you're working with a large amount of interviews and you wished you could quickly get an overview of your interviews. Or maybe you are working in a team with people who have interviews in different languages, and there might be interviews, I don't know, in French or in a language that is not your own, that you don't understand. If that is the case, you can use the AI document summarization to quickly get an overview of your interviews or your files. So you can have NVivo create a summary of each of your file. And even if, for instance, like I said, maybe the interview is in French, you are not a French speaker, you can still do the AI summary, but just have the summary in a different language, a language that you understand, which might be English or Swedish or another language that you are familiar with. Another scenario that you might have come into, or that you might have experienced, is if you are coding your data. And those of you who are new to NVivo, I will explain what codes are, so don't worry. But you are coding your data. Maybe you have created some broader codes, about certain topic areas, and now you need some inspiration how to code more finely. Or maybe you work with surveys that have open-ended survey questions, and you have now all these 500 answers to these survey questions, and you quickly want to get an idea of what topics are covered within these answers. For that, what you can use now is the AI code suggestion. So with this AI tool, NVivo will suggest new child codes or subcodes for a code that you created and coded for yourself. And it will give you some ideas of subcodes that you can then either reject or include. And the last AI tool that has been added is the AI text summarization. So this could be nice for scenarios where you read through your material and you come across unfamiliar terms that you just don't know and you need a quick explanation. Or maybe one of your interview respondents mentions a specific organization they work for or are related with, and you quickly want to find out what this organization is about. For that, you can use the AI text summarization. It will give you a brief explanation of what this word means. Now, the way that we want to approach or use the AI assistant in NVivo 15 is kind of like an iterative cycle. Of course, we don't want the AI to do the work for us. It's really just the idea of having, like a research assistant, someone that can help us explore our data a little bit, give us some suggestions that we can reflect on. We can look at the suggestions and either accept them and add them to our project, or we reject them and say, well, I'm not too happy with what you have suggested here. Let's run it again. And you can run the AI assistant again and maybe see if the next round of results fits a little bit better into what you were looking for. Once you accept the AI suggestions, you can add them to your project, like I said, either as new codes. You can create memos or annotations from the results, which I will show you in a second. And this way, it is integrated into your analysis. Now, you might be wondering, okay, how is AI, integrated now, and is it safe as a researcher? Because I also have a research background. We should always be very careful of what we allow AI to do in our work. But the approach that Lumivero, the producer of NVivo, has is really the idea is that you are always in control. So the AI assistant offers you suggestions, and like I said, you can either reject them or accept them, and you can remain absolutely in control of what you want to integrate into your project and whatnot. Also, your data is secure, so when you access the NVivo AI assistant tools, this data is not used to train the AI module. It's just sent to the AI, and once the AI completes its task, the information is sent to your NVivo project and deleted from the service. So none of your empiric data, which might be sensitive data, etc., is used to, none of that is going into the actual model to train it. So I think this is important to mention. That being said, let's see NVivo 15 in action. So this is what NVivo 15 looks like. So not much has changed compared to previous versions, which is great. Those of you who have been using NVivo before don't have to relearn everything. The only thing that has changed is here in the Home tab, we have an additional button where it says AI Assistant. So let's have a look around. Those of you who have never used NVivo before, I just want to show you the different sections that we have here in the navigation view. Here we have the import part. This is where you can create your folders for your different data types and import your data. So for instance, here we have a list of interviews that has been imported. Then in the next section, this is where we have the organize part. This is where we would create our codes. So codes in NVivo are our themes, topics, categories, anything that is relevant for us to be able to answer our research questions. This is where we would collect all the different quotes and snippets from our material that fall into the different codes or categories. This is also where we find our cases. Cases in NVivo are our units of analysis. So here, for instance, this could be interview participants, so anyone you spoke to in your interviews and that you would like to also bring in the demographic data for. But cases could also be something entirely different. So here, for instance, we see a folder called places. So in this specific project, they also had another type of case for all the places that they were researching on. And lastly, we have the explore section. This is where we can store any queries that we would like to run again at a later point in time, or also store our mapping tools. Okay, now let's have a look at the AI tools that we have available. So let's start with just looking at one of our documents here. This, for instance, is Dorothy's interview. Now, if you're wondering what these numbers mean on this side, this means that we have currently coding to 39 different codes in Dorothy's interview with a total of 128 references. This means that a lot of data in Dorothy's interview has been coded to different codes. So what I could do now is, of course, I could go ahead and start reading through Dorothy's interview to get an idea what she's talking about, but maybe you want to see a little bit faster what the interview is about before maybe even start reading it, or maybe you have read it a while ago and just need a quick reminder what this interview is about. For that, you can use the AI tools. So I would just do a right click here on the document and go to AI Assistant Summarise Documents. Since I'm using the AI for the first time in this sessions, I have to confirm that I accept the AI terms of use. And I actually have to click on AI terms of use. So this is something that you will have to do at every new session where you are using the AI tools. So those of you who are interested in more details on the AI terms of use, you will find it here on the NVivo 15 help page. So I consent, I click OK, and now this dialog box opens. I could also select several interviews at the same time if I wanted to, but currently I'm just interested in Dorothy's summary. Here I have the list of languages that I could choose to get the summary in. So as you can see, this is really great for if you are working in a team with multiple languages and you want to get a summary for an interview that is in a language that you don't speak. You have really a long list of languages that you could create the summary in. I'm choosing English for this summary, and for summary length, I'm this time going for standard, and then I click generate. Now with AI prompts, they will always be a little bit different. So if you use the prompt again or on a different day, you might not get a totally identical summary. Please have this in mind, but this is just how AI works. But this already seems nice. I get a nice summary about Dorothy. So Dorothy is a retired department store clerk and has deep roots in Down East, and she has lived in the area since 1963. So this is really helpful for me to get a reminder or an overview who this person is in the interview. If I like this summary, I can edit as a memo. If I have maybe created several summaries for different documents and I just wanted to get an overview or don't like the summary and I don't want to edit to my project, I would click skip. But in my case, I will click add memo and then click OK. Now this should close. And what we see here now is that I have this link symbol attached to Dorothy's file. So this means that now there is a memo attached to it. How can I open it? One way would be to do a right click again, go to memo link and open linked memo. And now I can see the content of the memo. What you also see, since this was generated by AI, you will always get this little AI initials. What I would also do if I click on edit here, I might want to add a timestamp so that I remember when this was created. So just click Control Shift T. This will insert date and time. Now let's just see, just so that you know, memos in general are a really great way for you to reflect on your data. You can use them for many different things in NVivo. You find all your memos under notes, and there you can create different folders, and all your AI summaries will have a specific folder called AI summaries. But as you can see here in the sample project, there could also be different types of memos like progress reports, project administration if you want to work in a team, and memos can either be free floating, so they just sit in a folder, or they can be attached or linked to specific documents or codes like we've seen now. And they are just a great way to reflect on your data and staying on top and documenting what you're doing. Let's go back to the interviews and let's see the next example that I have for you. So let's click into Charles's interview this time. Now, Charles's interview has also been coded. I want to talk a little bit more about codes maybe and what they are. So with codes, what you do is basically you go through your data, you read through it, or depending on what type of files you have. If you have pictures and videos, of course, you will watch them instead. And then you can go ahead and if you find a piece of material, a quote that fits into a certain code or category, you can just mark it and code it. Now, there are different ways of how we can do this. One, for instance, is a drag and drop. You have a code panel here for documents that you can switch on, and there you can see all the codes that you have already created. And then you could just go ahead, mark the piece of text that you want to code, and drag and drop it into the code that you think is fitting. Now, if you have a lot of codes with sub-levels like you see here, the code panel and the drag and drop option might be a bit too much or too imprecise. So instead, you can always just do a right click and go to code selection. And from here, you would also get the list of all your codes. You can expand all the codes that you have created. You could even hold the control key and code to several codes at the same time, if this is something that fits. And also what you see here, you can always create new codes inductively from your data. So as you're reading through your material, you might realize that there's a new topic, a new code that you want to create. This is something that you can also do either by right click or drag and dropping into the code list. Now, if we have a closer look here at Charles, I can also switch on the coding stripes to see which parts of the data have already been coded. So let's maybe go for most coding. And these coding stripes will now show me which parts of the data have been coded to different codes or also to his case. So here we know that this is Charles speaking, but I will talk a little bit more about this later. So here, for instance, we can see that these quotes are about real estate development. This is about economy, and so on and so forth. And with the coding stripes, we can not only track which parts of our documents are coded, but we can already maybe start to see some overlaps between specific topics like fishing and agriculture here and economy. There seems to be an overlap, which we might want to explore later in some of the queries. Let's switch the highlights and the coding stripes off so that I will be able to show you the next AI feature. So the next AI feature is for when you read through your material and you come across any unfamiliar terms. I'm not a native speaker, so here in this section, Linda is asking Charles, so what do you like doing while you're here? I mean, you go out on your boat, do you fish? And Charles is replying to it, and he uses a word that I'm not familiar with, which is scuttlebutt. I've never heard it. I don't know what it is. So what I want to do is I want to do a quick search for this word and get an explanation. So for this, I mark it, I do a right click, and use the AI assistant summarize text. And here again, I can choose the summary language. I'm a German native speaker, so I might even get a summary in German if I want to. And this time I will choose the summary length long because I want a few sentences about what a scuttlebutt should be. So let's click generate. And now I get an explanation. It says scuttlebutt refers to rumors or gossip, often related to informal conversations about people or events. Originally a nautical term. So this makes a lot of sense because they were talking about fishing. So what I could do now is either this explanation is enough for me to understand it, understand the word in context, and I just click cancel. Or if I want to add this as an annotation, I would click OK. And if I do this, I have now an annotation here on my document. I see a little speech bubble and a blue highlight. And to see the content of the annotation, I go up here to the speech bubble icon, and now I can see the AI annotation that was added. Again, I have the initials AI here so that I can really be reminded that this is not something that I added myself, but that was added by AI. And this is really good. So generally, annotations, of course, you can also create them manually. You don't have to use the AI for it. So annotations can really be used anytime that you want to add some extra information, a small comment to your files while you're reading without actually going away from the text. And yeah, just mark the text where you want to add an annotation and just do a right click, new annotation. All your annotations will be stored again under the notes section where it says annotations. No folders here in comparison to the memos. But yeah, this is what you can do with the annotations. Let's take a closer look at our codes. Now, just to give you a little bit of explanation, so codes basically are like containers where you, code and collect all the material that belongs to one category, or, depending on what method you're using, you might also start building broader categories or themes based on your codes. But basically, what you would do is you create your codes here. We have thematic codes. You might even create a rule for coding that you can include in your code properties. Like you see here, you have a description field. In this example, we do not even have an explanation, but here would be a good idea to note down your rule for coding or your idea behind the code. Especially if you want to work in a team, this could be a great idea to, be able to communicate about your understanding of certain codes. Now, as you can see, this is a rather small code. We have coding in 11 different files with a total of 43 references. A way to review our coding is just to double-click on a code itself, and it will open here in the detail view. And from here, we can then read through everything that is coded to this code, which can help us get an understanding of what people had to say about infrastructure. And this comes really from all different sources. If you've coded in text files, like here in Barbara's interview, you will get the actual text that is coded. If while reading, you realize, oh, there's also other topics that, they mention here, you can actually code on. Just do a right click and code this selection to any other code you think might be fitting. You can also, of course, always adjust your coding. Just click on uncode from this uncode from this code. In case it's no longer fitting and you code it maybe a bit too broadly. Now, what's also interesting is this next example here. This is coding that comes from a video file, an interview with Betty and Paul. And the numbers that we see here is actually a timestamp. So if I want to see what Betty and Paul had to say, I would click on the right side here into video, and I would be able to then listen to exactly what the two of them had to say about infrastructure. So now you see them talking, and I could listen to it, and yeah, that's very helpful. So if you want to work with audio and video files, please be aware that you can code either in the transcript or on the audio and video file, or on the audio, or both at the same time would even be possible. Okay, but what I want to do is I want to show you the next example. So like I said, I could either go through here and make up my mind and see, okay, what are the issues with infrastructure that I mentioned here, or I can get some inspiration by using the next AI tool. So I could do a right click on infrastructure, and I can choose AI Assistant Suggest Child Codes. So child codes is NVivo terminology for subcodes, or codes on a lower level. So this is what I will do. It now informs me that the code infrastructure has 37 textual references across 11 sources. So obviously it only this only works for text-based coding, not for the audio from the video that I just showed you. I can click generate, and now let's see what the AI assistant suggests. So it will now go through all the coded references and come up with subcodes that might be fitting. Okay, so now we have these 4 codes that were suggested as child codes, and we can actually click through the codes to see what text these suggestions were based on. And we can now decide if we want to keep the codes, and if we want to add them to our project, and if we also want to add the references. So we could also just keep the codes but not have NVivo code for us. So yeah, this decision we could make here. But I will just click OK and keep everything as suggested, and let's see. Okay, and now these code have been added to our infrastructure code as subcodes, and from here I could now go ahead and of course look a little bit more into detail and go into depth about what AI has coded. And this is also something that you should oh, I should save. You will see here any codes that you create based on the AI tools will have the initials AI. So again, you can clearly track that this was added by the AI and not by anyone who is an actual person working on this project file, like you see here. You always, with any code or anything that you create in NVivo, you will always get the user initials to track who created or modified something. And for the AI child code suggestion, you obviously get the AI initials. Okay, so these were the AI tools. You're probably wondering, okay, how can I get access to this? So let me show you. So if you're now interested in trying out the AI tools in NVivo 15 yourself, this is how you can get access to it. Obviously, if you buy a new version or a new license for NVivo right now, you will have NVivo 15, and this will include the AI tools. And those of you who are on annual licenses, on subscription licenses, you already have access to NVivo 15. So if you have an annual license for NVivo 14 at the moment, you should have a prompt or some info when you open NVivo 14 that you can also use your NVivo 14 license key to actually activate NVivo 15. So for any subscription licenses, the upgrade to NVivo 15 is automatically included so that you can try out these new features. Please be aware that the AI tools is limited or free for the first 1,000 pages of analysis. So this is calculated on the tokens in the background. Again, if you want to know exactly how this is calculated, you can go to the NVivo 15 help page. But for the first 1,000 pages of analysis, you can use the Lumivero AI assistant for free. And if you realize this is something that you want to use on a regular basis and you want to have access unlimited or unlimited use of the AI assistant, then you can also choose the premium add-on for the AI assistant subscription, which again is a yearly subscription that you can add based on your needs. Okay, let me show you a few more things that you can do in NVivo other than the AI tools. So let's close all of this that we have right here. I just want to show you a few more things so that you can have some more ideas of how you can explore your data when you want to start using NVivo. So let's maybe go back to our interviews and let's go back to Dorothy's interview. So one thing that you can do to, or another way of how you can get an idea of what Dorothy's interview is about, other than the AI summarization, is creating a word cloud. So you can just do a right click on your document, go to visualize and word cloud. So now NVivo will go through the document and do a word frequency query to find out what the most frequently used words in this document are. And the result of this will be a word cloud. And here we go. So now we have a word cloud that shows us the most frequently used words in this document. So we find a lot of interesting words here like industry, island, change. Another one that pops out here is scallops. So I'm wondering what Dorothy has to say about scallops. I can just do a right click on the word scallops and get a preview for how the word is used in context. Just to get a better idea of, how or why maybe Dorothy talks about scallops so much in her document. And if I'm thinking, okay, this is interesting, I'm wondering if this is specific to Dorothy's interview, I could add another search, which is a text search for the word scallops. So what I could do here again, either from here, I could just do a right click and choose run text search query for scallops. Now this will run the query right away for me. You can find all queries also up here in the Explorer tool an explore tab. So we will find the word frequency here, also the text search. Now, what I want to do is I want to adjust this query a little bit. Right now, it just looked for the word scallops in Dorothy's file, but I'm interested in whether anyone else in this interview folder also mentions the word scallops. So I will click here on selected folders and make the mark here where it says interviews so that all of these interview files are included. Another thing that I want to do is I want to search for scallop and add a wildcard for this little star sign here, because this will then include anything that starts with scallop. So it could be scallop or scallops. So let's run the query again. And now I get more hits. Again, I still find Dorothy's interview, obviously, but we also have some hits in Susan's and Mary and James's interview. And if I want to see exactly what they said, I can click on where it says reference and then scroll through how the word scallop and scallops has been used. I can also review this as a word tree. A word tree always has one word in the middle, and then you can again, visualize how something or how the word is used in context, and maybe even get some idea of interesting word combinations that you might want to explore more. Any visualization like this that we can create, we can of course also export. Just do a right click on export word tree, or you can also of course copy paste this into one of your memos. The last thing that I want to show you is a little bit more about cases. I've mentioned them in the beginning. So cases are your units of analysis. This is a way for you to really add another layer to your data. So instead of just looking at Dorothy's interview, we can kind of have this background information about Dorothy in our project. So here in our cases, we find Dorothy's case. We see that there's one file in Dorothy's case, which obviously is her interview transcript. And if I do a right click on Dorothy, I can go to her case properties and learn a little bit about her. So here under attribute values, I can now see that she's from Williston and she lives in the area for 3 or more generations, and she's female. And this demographic information, or the descriptive information in the background, can then later help us to run really complex queries, like for instance crosstabs, where we then compare what certain people or certain groups of people had to say about a certain topic that we coded for. So this is really, really powerful in NVivo. And the queries that you could use for that is, for instance, a crosstab query that you find up here. Another thing that you can do with cases that is quite specific, but it might be fun or useful for some of you, is using relationship codes. Now, relationship codes are a very specific type of code in NVivo that you can use, for instance, to connect different cases and describe their relationship. So in this specific example, or in this specific project that we have here, the researchers were not only interested in the people in the area, but also how the people in the area relate to the different places that they were researching. So they created all these relationships, like has family in, is a member of, is married to. And the way this will then be able to, or the way that you can then review this, is in form of sociograms. So for Dorothy, let me just show you how this could look like. If I go to visualize an egocentric sociogram, this is now how this can look like. Let's get a little bit more space. Let's zoom in. So Dorothy's sociogram looks like this. So this is an egocentric sociogram. So we have Dorothy, the main actor, so to say, in the middle as a star. And from here, we can see all the different connections that are available. So Dorothy mentions Atlantic. Charles also mentions Atlantic. Dorothy grew up in Smyrna. Susan is someone who also mentions Smyrna, and so on and so forth. So you can really see how things are connected. Maria is married to Daniel. This is also something that we find out from this map, and so on and so forth. So this is really, really interesting if you want to have another form of visualizing the connections between your different cases in your project. But I guess this is all that I wanted to show you today. There's definitely way more that you can learn. I mean, you see that there are so many different tools and options and ways that you can use NVivo. So I want to point you to our trainings, our upcoming trainings. Let me get this out of the way. So these are our upcoming events. We have a special offer for all our online demo day registrants. You can now register for any of our EndNote or NVivo trainings for the rest of the year, so for autumn until December, and get a 10% off by using code Alfasoft 2024. Just go to our Alfasoft.com/events page. There you find the categories for NVivo or EndNote. The next training that will be available is on October 29th and 30th. There are still some seats available. And this format. I run this format regularly. It's a really in-depth training where we really go step by step over everything that you need to know. We really start with the basics and go through all the steps. And you can choose if you want to practice along. You really try to slow down the speed, unlike what I did now in this webinar. I speed things up a little bit, but in this 2-day training, or in any training that I do, we usually have enough time to practice alongside, to ask questions. Or even if you decide, no, I just want to watch and take notes, this is absolutely possible, because you will get access to the recording of this training and then be able to rewatch it and just practice based on the recording at your own pace. What's also interesting is that this 2-day format includes an individual 30-minute follow-up session in the week after, which is where I will be able to really meet with you individually and have a look at your specific project and give you some suggestions on how to proceed, or give you some suggestions on how to set up the project so that you're really that you're going to be able to use NVivo successfully and efficiently. And with that, so the code for this is Alfasoft 2024. So I hope to see a lot of you there. I thank you very much for listening to this and watching this webinar, and I wish you great success with your next NVivo project.